Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Tonight is a super exciting night because I'm out here in Austin, Texas, the land, well, Texas is the land of great planetary seeing. Anyways, we're getting the big Celestron out tonight. I'm going to look at Jupiter and Saturn, hopefully even the moon, and maybe even Mars if I'm insane and I decide to stay up late. Spoilers, I probably won't. But we're going to follow along with the whole process of shooting an image of the gas giants. Seeing looks pretty good tonight, so hopefully we'll be able to show some excellent results. Saturn is just crossing 30 degrees now, and the great red spot is going to be out on Jupiter tonight. So it should be a really awesome night. So we got the telescope all set up, and I know you guys are going to laugh at my water bottle counterweight setup, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I didn't want to spend $70 on a counterweight, so here we are with the water bottles. And the plus is it's actually a dynamic counterweight because I can drink water to attain perfect balance. So really it's like a more advanced counterweight than just using metal, so I will take it. At the start of any planetary session, I'll do a thing called collimation. So what we're going to do is we're going to slew to a bright star, and then we are going to align the secondary mirror just to make sure all the mirrors are perfectly, set up, and that will let us get the sharpest details possible in our images. But while I'm here, I figured I'd give you a tour of the setup that I plan on using tonight. Alrighty, so my telescope here is a Celestron C925 Edge HD, which is a Schmidt-Cassegrain design telescope. It's the ideal situation for doing portable planetary imaging because it's a small package, but it's got a lot of aperture, a lot of focal length, and a lot of reach for actually looking at the planets. To get nice and up close, I've got a 2x Barlow. It's going to double my focal length at the cost of half of my light, but this is a worthwhile trade because the planets are very bright and I don't need all that extra light. What we've got here is the ZWO atmospheric dispersion corrector. Since I'm using a color camera, this is going to realign the color channels just to make sure that, I don't have a ton of chromatic aberration in my images. And I've got a 462 MC here. And this is going to be a high frame rate camera, which I use to capture high frame rate video of the planets, which we're going to stack later to actually produce a sharp image. And the thing about this camera is it's very sensitive to infrared. So for Jupiter, when that's out, I have this very dirty IR cut filter, which we're going to use just so that our colors are back to normal because the colors have been really weird without using it. For Saturn though, it's all good. I don't actually need the cutting filter. And for the mount, I just have an old AVX, which does the job. But we're going to get slewed to a bright star now and get collimated. So this process of collimation, or aligning the mirrors, is super critical for doing planetary imaging, and you can see on my screen how it's actually performed. So you defocus on a bright star, hopefully near zenith, so you don't have to deal with seeing, and you adjust the screws on the secondary mirror until you get concentric circles. So the thing with deconvolution for high resolution planetary work is you actually have to get pretty close to focus to get actually accurate convolution, and you need to do it with your Barlow lens inside as well. So you'll notice I actually go pretty close in on focus with this star, and I'm doing very small adjustments to make sure at very close to focus my collimation is good. Because oftentimes people will do collimation not very close to focus, and it's hard to get it super accurate unless you're very close to focus. So it's an important thing to keep in mind. Alrighty guys, so I'm looking at Saturn right now, and oh my goodness, it is insane tonight. It just does not disappoint. Wow, I'm flustering because it looks so good right now. Texas does not disappoint. This is like 10 out of 10 saying. Okay, what I'm gonna do next is actually tune the ADC, so let me get that set up for you guys. So this next part is the tuning of the atmospheric dispersion corrector, which will get us some better color in our shots. Oh my God, it just looks so good. This is literally unreal. I love Texas. Planetary seeing, honestly, has nothing to do with your, well, it has something to do with your telescope, but oh my goodness, like it is all about where you live, man. And this is what no one talks about. Everyone likes to talk about the best planetary telescope. Man, put that telescope in space, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Texas is almost as close as you can get at this point. So ADC tuning, insert astroname here, who's also in Texas, coincidentally, go away plane, has a very good tutorial on this. And basically we bubble level our ADC to get it aligned because it has to do with the atmosphere. And then we bring these two screws back to this home position, and then we move the first one until the color problems go away. I can't believe I ever tried doing planetary from anywhere that wasn't Texas, because this is literally insane. Guys, I'm shocked right now. Jupiter is going to be unreal tonight. Tonight is just great. I'm glad I set everything up. Okay, so excuse my flustering. One of the important things we have to figure out right now, and one very important thing in planetary, is actually how you manage your files. And I will let Future Bray talk about this because I am freaking out right now.
Hey guys, this is Future Bray, here to tell you about the file naming system and why it's so important. So the reason, if you're using a capturing program like SharpCap or FireCapture, you need to make sure that your files are outputting in the winjupos file name format, because winjupos is super critical to getting really clean planetary images because it allows us to stack our stacks, basically like a stackception. And it's very important that we have the correct times on our files, because this is all dependent on the time the images were taken, because winjupos will use the actual timing to, you know, align the images. I also want to take this second to explain why the planetary seeing is so good in Texas. And one of the reasons is the jet stream, which kind of governs fine detail, doesn't really go over Texas. And the other main reason is there's a bunch of smooth laminar airflow coming off of the Atlantic, and it just is very good for local seeing as well as jet stream seeing. So that's why planetary has been really productive whenever I do it here.
I have been imaging Saturn for a bit now. I've got some good shots of the disk and the rings, and I also got some shots of the moons as well. So hopefully I'll be able to get a good image framing it up with the moons. But I have to say that this is literally like probably the best seeing I've ever had in my life. And I feel like I say that every time I set up here in Texas, but it's literally ridiculous. The Cassini division is just clear. Nothing's shaking at all. There's no blurriness. I mean, it's literally insane seeing. So while I'm at it, let me tell you a bit about how planetary imaging actually works, since we haven't really touched on that at all. So planetary imaging, or it's oftentimes also called speckle imaging or lucky imaging, is a way where people try and build up as much clean, sharp signal on a given object or planet as fast as possible to try and get a clear image. So what you'll do is you'll use a camera like this that shoots high frame rate video instead of taking singular still images, and we shoot at as fast as we can in terms of frames per second. I'm doing like 70 frames per second on Saturn right now. And what this does is it lets me get as many images of the planet when it's at its clearest. So I'll show you some raw video, but the planet kind of waves around. There's moments of clarity and there's moments of blurriness, even under very good seeing. So I'm trying to just get those best moments to get the sharpest image, and we'll use software later on to analyze all of the images and find those best moments throughout the capturing session. And it extends even further beyond that. We will take the sharpest images after we've stacked them together to get those best moments, and then we'll stack all of those best moments together in this program called winjupos to deliver us an even cleaner final image. So it's quite a process. It's very difficult. It's certainly a labor of love and luck as well. You have to be very lucky oftentimes for planetary, and tonight we're getting pretty lucky. The seeing is just great. hopefully it holds and we will get some very awesome images of the great red spot on Jupiter. I don't know if you can tell, but the moon is rising behind the trees right now. So maybe we'll even do a lunar crater or something, but it's just a wonderful night tonight. I'm glad I came out here and set up because right now it's very difficult to set up where I'm at because I'm at an apartment instead of a house. So I don't have a backyard. You know, it takes a lot to bring everything out here. Doing astrophotography without a backyard is one of the most challenging things you can do. And I'm really putting in the work right now. So it feels good to actually have good seeing for all of this effort. But I'm gonna keep shooting and I'll come back to you guys when the red planet, sorry, not the red planet, although it is kind of red, when the biggest planet is out, Jupiter, and hopefully I'll get you guys a good view of the great red spot. So I'll see y'all soon. Alrighty guys, it is almost midnight. I'm getting absolutely eaten alive by mosquitoes right now. I don't have bug spray like an idiot. You might see a couple of them try and go for me. Anyways, it's about Jupiter time now. I've gotten some of the best Saturn data of my life again, because Texas is insane. Jupiter's about to clear the tree line, so what I'm gonna do is I'm throwing on this infrared filter, and this is gonna give me better color balance because color balance of this camera is kind of weird. It picks up infrared and a lot of like purples and stuff, a lot of weird tones that I don't want in my photo. So we're just gonna drop the IR blocker in there to get natural color balance, and that should be great. Now, we just gotta go to Jupiter. I'm going to try and figure out where exactly it is in the sky and get us over there. I'm doing all the finding manually with a Telrad, which is pretty good. One tip that I really like for finding stuff is making everything a bit out of focus. And that way, it's blurry, but it actually is bigger because a blurry spot is bigger than a in focus spot, and that actually makes it quite a bit easier to find stuff, I find. So I'll knock it out of focus and then bring it into view with the Telrad, and then that's usually like good enough. My USB cable is trapped. Okay. It's still kind of in the trees, so this will be a little tough, but I'm hoping to get on it ASAP because the red spot is out, but it's the red spot is setting, so I want to try and hurry up, you know, and get my shot quickly. I gotta get down on the ground. Gotta get down and dirty with it, as usual. I hope you all can see the mosquitoes around me because it's bad. Anyways, my exposure is pretty dark right now because I'm literally looking through a tree. But in just a few short minutes, she will be visible, I hope. Yeah, I'll come back when Jupiter's in view. Okay guys, I am pointed at Jupiter. I got a little great red spot earlier in the night. It is just now setting, however, so great red spot is kind of coming to a close. I am getting absolutely murdered by the most horrendous looking mosquitoes on the planet. These guys are so down bad right now. I witnessed one attacking my SD or my SSD. The heat from my SSD got this mosquito all hot and bothered. It was trying to insert its proboscis into my SSD. So disgusting. But the seeing is good, at least. So I'm probably gonna have malaria at the end of this video, or Zika or something, because I don't have any bug spray. It's really bad, but I'm doing what's necessary for the shot. I won't be out here much longer though. I'll probably, I might grab a couple shots of the moon just for fun, but because conditions are so harsh with the mosquito problem, I'm probably not gonna record it. I'm gonna start packing my stuff up, and I will see you guys next with a bit of B-roll of Jupiter and maybe the moon. And then we'll get to processing inside tomorrow. So I'll see you guys in a mosquito-less environment soon. Hey guys, so the night is over, it's the morning after. I've survived all of my mosquito injuries, and now we're gonna start actually editing all the data we got last night. And the first step in doing all of that is we're going to dump it all into this program called autostakkert. And autostakkert is what actually does the automatic stacking of all of our files. So this will let us produce our images, which we will perform sharpening on. So
I've already opened up the files here. I've got an absolute ton on Jupiter. I've already ran through all the Saturn frames and they look really great. So we're just gonna do the Jupiter ones now. And I've got them all loaded up. So this is how the workflow basically goes for autostakkert. If you got a planet, you click planet. Dynamic background doesn't really matter for this. We analyze our frames for their quality, and it's just going to chew through all of those, and from this it will sort through which ones are the best, which ones are the worst, and then we will decide which ones we want to keep from all of that. So this will just take a second as it's processing through all the frames. It's using a Laplacian quality estimator. I don't really know what that means, to be honest, but I've never touched this setting before, and it's gone okay so far. So I will continue to not touch it. All right, so here are the frames, and I believe it sorts them by quality. So we can just flick through all of them. This was from one of the first runs in this session for Jupiter, so it's probably one of the worst ones here, but we'll run through it anyways just to see how it looks. So to start, you just hit place AP grid once you've got your quality analyzed, and then you'll pick an actual percentage you want to stack. Now typically this ranges, it can take a big range, anywhere from 15% to 35%. Autostakkert lets you go through and actually pick different percentages. So I'm going to go ahead and stack a couple and we'll compare each of them for their differences. The thought process is if you're seeing is good, you should keep more of the frames. If you're seeing is bad, you should keep less. So it is kind of a toss-up as to what actually looks the best. So we're going to go with a couple different options and actually compare them all. I'm also going to up drizzle these a little bit just to get a little extra resolution. I think my seeing was good enough to do it, especially on Saturn. So I'm going to run it up with a little bit of a drizzle, and we'll come back with the Saturn frames. So before I actually take these frames into winjupos to stack them for less noise, I actually do a little pre-processing in pixinsight. And what I will do for all of the frames using an image container is I'm going to deconvolve all of them to make them a bit sharper, remove some of the atmospheric blur. And I'm also going to run wavelets on all of the frames. And the reason I do this is because in winjupos, you need to see an outline template which you will place on Saturn, and it has to be done very accurately, and I find I can do this much better when I can actually see all of the fine details in the image. So off the bat, I'm just going to hit it with Richardson-Lucy deconvolution. This is kind of a nice type of convolution for planetary imaging. If you're using IMPPG, I'm not sure if registax has it, but it will also be in there as that kind of deconvolution. So I'm going to hit it with one run of that. I'm going to look at what the wavelets look like for this one run of deconvolution, and we'll see if I find it over deconvolved. It's a little noisy, but that's pretty good. A lot of this noise is actually going to stack out when we go into winjupos. So we'll run these settings, Richardson-Lucy for planetary, 2.4 standard deviation, and I'm going to make an image container here, and I'm going to add all my Saturn frames, and we're going to set an output directory. We'll set it to the Saturn folder here, and we'll call this decon for deconvolution. We will drag this as an instance, and we will apply our deconvolution instance to this container of images, and it's going to go through and deconvolve all of them. And then next, we'll roll these frames all through wavelets, just a light wavelet transform, so that I can see what's going on in a bit more of a meaningful way. So for those who don't know, winjupos does a very neat geometrical trick with your images where it performs a cylindrical projection of your image. And that is to say, it takes this, looks at it from the pole, and then projects it onto a cylinder where north is the top, south is down, and then the rotation of the planet can be canceled by an XY translation for these cylindrically projected images. And then once you stack all of them, you reproject it back onto a normal projected image. So you can stack images of a planet that's rotating, and this is really, really important for Jupiter and Saturn, these planets that have fast rotation rates. So it's a very neat program. It's kind of a pain in the butt to use because you can see we have to manually move this outline frame around. So there are some keys here that you actually have to use. You use the arrow keys here to move it left to right. So I'm going to move it over all the way. You use the N and P keys to actually rotate it. And then we're going to slowly attempt to rescale this thing to match. And hopefully we can get it pretty accurate any year now. But yeah, as I was saying, this relies on your time because winjupos will move your images in this cylindrically projected space based on what time they were captured to do the XY translation, which will do the alignment in that projected space so you can actually stack. And it needs its date and time format on the file to automatically read it. Otherwise, you'll have to manually input the date and time for everything, and that's not fun, especially if you have a lot of runs. You really want to have the automatic file naming turned on. One other thing that was important about capture while we're sitting and waiting here is you may have noticed I have everything captured onto a Samsung T5 SSD. And whenever I'm doing lunar, planetary, solar, anything with a high frame rate camera, I write everything to this 2 terabyte SSD. It's very small, and I Velcro tape it onto my laptop. And it's really, really great for getting files on and off because it has a very fast read-write speed. I can capture, you know, at the full frame rate of any of my cameras, and the data is just there to stack. So I really recommend getting one of those instead of capturing to your laptop because it just lets you capture for longer and more easily. Okay, so we have it roughly centered. I'm going to scale this according to my telescope parameters and hopefully it guesses fine. I think my focal length was like 5K. Alright, this has been drizzled, so it's actually technically more. We'll try 8K millimeters. Okay. This is generally how I do this. I just guess the number until it's close enough. I'm sure there might be a better way, and I'd love to hear it if you know it. But for Saturn, this does not automatically align, and you kind of have to just mess with this. So we're getting pretty close now. I'm just going to fine-tune my rotation just to make sure. We can do this a bit better. I think a small change downwards maybe. No. I think 11,250 might be it. And it's worth taking the time to do this right because if you don't, you're going to get a bunch of weird artifacts. And you're going to wonder where they came from. And it's just because this alignment has to be very particular. But I think that's pretty good. Interestingly, you can see it knows based on the time where the shadow is off of Saturn. You see we're a little past opposition based on the length of the shadow, but that measurement looks fine. So I'm going to save this measurement in our WAV folder. We'll get image number 2, and that is still aligned, so we'll save. So once you do this once, if all the images out of autostakkert are the same, they'll all be in the same spot, and you can just like rip through everything and it will go pretty fast. Oh, okay, we're not taking this one. That one can stay. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Tools, Derotation of Images. We're going to clear all the old ones. We're going to add in our WAVs. We'll optimize our measurements. Sometimes I'll run this with and without optimization just to see what looks better. It's a bit of a toss-up, but once you have all your measurements, you load them in and hit compile. And then it's going to stack them together, drop the noise down, and hopefully give us a very good looking image. Okay, well there is our derotated stacked Saturn, and this doesn't have any artifacts, so I'm pretty happy with this.
So for the actual post-processing of the Saturn image, I'm just going to speed all through it. It was quite a bit of trial and error, as it usually is with planetary images. I had to deal with a couple deconvolution artifacts and some interesting color balance challenges. Hopefully you can glean a little bit from the fast-forwarded editing time-lapse. I'm also going to show the winjupos stacking for the Jupiter image as a time-lapse, and I'll cut to the final images. For Jupiter and winjupos, it goes literally the exact same as with Saturn, but the added advantage is you get to automatically set the outline frame, so you don't have to do all the tuning and the nightmare stuff in winjupos, and it goes quite a bit faster. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy the final images. Thanks for watching.